morning, everybody. Thanks for zooming in here while we're at shoot around. I know you guys are going to have to go back to work here when shoot around is over, so appreciate you taking the time to do this. Hey, trade deadline's an interesting time in every city in the league, and I think for us this was one where we're really trying to take the measure of how good we truly are, and how good we truly aren't. And I think where we sort of landed during this trade deadline is, while we're 5 games under 500 and we're certainly not where we want to be on the season, we are 13th best in the league in scoring differential in the whole league, and we're 8th best in the West. And we've got the 7th best offense in the league, and unfortunately the 28th defense. And I think what you've seen, because we've got a very good scoring differential and not a very good record, is exactly what you're supposed to expect from a very young team that hasn't learned how to win yet. And that's how this goes. That's what growth and maturation looks like. Losing the Portland game, a game that we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, is a game that you've got to get if your record's going to reflect how well you played in the game. You won that game. You put yourself in position to win that game, and we didn't get it. And that's what young teams do. Getting over the hump and learning how to battle through that is a big part of how we grow and evolve. And I think you've seen our response to that in the last 6 games. So we're 4-2. We've got the 3rd best scoring differential in the league in that period of time. We've got the 5th best offense and the 8th best defense in that period of time. So we're moving in the right direction. And if you watch us play, it should be very evident that our young kids are growing and evolving in a very positive way. We can get into specific players if you want to ask questions about them, but I will tell you that everybody that's playing consistent minutes on our rotation right now is living up to the expectations we have for them in terms of their growth and evolution as young players. And I think that's something that is really, really important. We went into trade deadline believing that in all likelihood, continuity was the best thing for us in terms of continuing that growth and maturation process. Having said that, if we could have done something to significantly upgrade the team, we certainly would have liked to have done that. And I think we were very aggressively looking to do that. And what we did do, and what we were very happy to do, is add 2 guys to our roster, and James Johnson and Wes Iwundu, that are extremely competitive, defensive-oriented players. I mentioned earlier we were 28th in defense on the season, and while we have turned the corner a little bit there, being 8th in the last 6 games, it's certainly not something where we believe we have anywhere near enough grit and edge on that side of the court, and both of these guys have that. Wes, in the form of a very young, developing kid himself, who's far from a finished product, and James Johnson, who has proven over the breadth of his career that he can guard multiple positions, having actually defended 3s, 4s, 5s, and he is an offensively very capable player as well. So we're excited about what he may be able to offer the rotation. Lastly, I would just like to say that in JJ Redick and Nicolo Melli, we traded 2 players that we love as human beings, had a very, very full and rich experience with. We enjoy JJ a great deal on a human level. I, for one, will continue to listen to the podcast. Putting him in a highly competitive and contending environment was very important for us. And Nicolo is in a situation where he's going to be well embraced by his team. And so we thank them for their contributions to us as well, and felt like because they were not currently rotational pieces for us, we needed to do what we could to improve on the defensive side of the ball.
You're now tuned into the Pelican post-game report. We're in the building. Much love to the family on this Pelican post-game report special edition post-trade show coming at the family. Big ups to the flock. Big ups to some of our newest members of the flock, Paul Cole. Big ups to your family. Welcome to the flock. Big ups to you. And in this episode of the Pelican post-game report, family, the Pelicans make a trade. They trade both JJ Redick and Nicolo Melli to the Dallas Mavericks for a goon, a crazy man goon by the name of James Johnson, and of course a very exciting athletic forward, Wes. What's how you pronounce that name, DC? Let me see if I can pronounce the young man. Iwundu, Wes Iwundu, and a 2nd-round pick. So we'll cover all that today in the show. I'd like to welcome all of you guys to the Pelican Post-Game Report. Please strike upon the like button. Please feel free to share the shows in your social media platform on this episode. So I'm Big Q chiming in, and we're gonna bring in my co-host DC in the place to be. DC, what's going on, fam? How you doing? All right, DC, unmute yourself, sir. There you go.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What you say? We in the place to be?
We in the DC's in the place to be.
Feeling pretty good, man. Just glad the Pelicans was able to pull off something of significance, and I think this was a pretty decent trade, bearing the circumstances, and that we was facing buying this guy out, potentially paying him money to get going, asking him to take some salary back, and putting up a little money just to create space for Kiara and NAW. But we was able to get some pieces that we might be able to use. So feeling pretty good, man. Lonzo Ball's still here, so that's good too.
Yeah, that's a major part about it because, of course, the Pelicans were fielding offers for Lonzo, and of course, the indication was they had to get blown away by the offer to make a move on Lonzo, but ultimately deciding to keep him, which is a lot of people is really happy about it. I myself didn't really want to trade Lonzo Ball. I'm thinking that by trading Lonzo, DC, this presents it could be problematic for the chemistry because you already Zion and Bi both are Jeff informed saying, man, we want him here, so and then you would make the move to ultimately try to trade him. That could be problematic for them. But anyway, Pelicans, they do deal JJ Redick, and we all knew that. And big up Starley Cosell because he called this on the article where he said that the Pelicans, he had an article, you can go and research it on his archive, where he spoke about, going after James Johnson. And we ourselves said James Johnson is the crazy goon, man. I don't want to use that, kind of throw it off. But he is a tough guy. That's the dude.
I just call him Bloodsport.
But
that's
man,
his nickname.
Nickname Bloodsport, black belt. You can look at a lot of footage from him. He's up in there, doing the dirty work. I mean, James Jones is a good addition to the team. Now, of course, JJ Redick, they was going into a buyout market if they couldn't get rid of JJ Redick, and they had a lot of people saying, Q, what are the Pelicans doing? All this kind of stuff. Man, JJ Redick was headed to the buyout market. What the hell are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? He was going to be gone anyway. At least the Pelicans did get a 4 or a guy there that can actually help them fulfill that bench rotation. And this guy's a guy that can play the 4 and the 5. He ain't the greatest of 3-point shooters, but he's the big that we needed off the bench that we've been talking about. Okay, and this one, as you see on screen, the Pelicans deal JJ Redick to the Mavericks, keeping Lonzo Ball. And, of course, you look at the article here, JJ Redick, Pelicans trading Redick and shooting guard, trading JJ Redick to the Dallas Mavericks, according to the report by Sham Charania of The Athletic. Trade will put the 36-year-old back in the playoff contender. It is going to the Mavericks, however, but they also packed and shipped Nicolo Melli, who was struggling. And then, of course, they get James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, and a second-round pick back. So, that's it is. And, of course, let's unpack that. And, of course, the Pelicans deciding to hold on to Lonzo Ball. Now, of course, I heard a lot of comments and people were telling me, Q, I don't know if Lonzo is worth $20 million or what he's asking for your team. But remember, sometimes you have to quantify this. He's asking for 18, $20 million. The Pelicans could come down maybe to 18, 19. Hell, that's what they playing Eric Bledsoe right now. You mean to tell me that he ain't better than Bledsoe? He's not worth $18 million? I mean, come on. So
right.
that think about that for a second. But hold on,
it sounds better when you say like 4 years, $80 million. That sounds better than saying $20 million.
$20 million, yeah, but that's what it really works out to be. That's old car dealer trick they like to throw at you. But that's the deal, though. That's the reality. But let's unpack the trade. JJ Redick, Nicolo Melli, both going to Dallas. James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, second-round pick. Thoughts on that?
Man, A++, because from what I was told by Woj, who usually is pretty reliable, I say about 70-80%. He was wrong about a lot of stuff about the Pelicans today because we ain't buy out JJ and Lonzo didn't get moved. So you was facing a buyout and you found a way to turn that into a second-round pick and 2 solid defensive players and one guy with maybe the capability of possibly being a stretch four. having some other abilities as well. He's a little bit of the Swiss Army knife they would call him off the bench when he was going to the Mavs. He's a guy that can also be an enforcer and what we call a crazy guy. That's why Q was saying that,
Trying to
because
throw it off.
every team, yeah, but I mean every team needs that guy that's not afraid to get in people's face, that's not afraid to ruffle some feathers, that will call people out when things aren't going right. Just be willing to state that. So it was good to have a guy like that in James Johnson. So I think overall, man, it's a great trade, and it's something that could potentially help us actually win some games now in the present. And the guy Wes, how do you pronounce his name again, man?
Iwundu.
Wes Iwundu. Oh, that's he like your boy for Star Wars. Like what his name was? Windu? Iwundu. Okay. So he's a very athletic guy, another good defender. 7'2" wingspan, dude 6'6". He can play shooting guard, small forward, kind of what we need as a wing. We need somebody who can play defense and just a body that's capable, as a wing. And he's a guy with the potential, if Vincent can get with him and fix his shot, because he can't shoot more than nothing right now. Shooting numbers look horrendous. Both of their numbers don't really look great, but they weren't paying major minutes with Dallas. But he could possibly be something. I mean, we on the hook with him for like $2 million next year if we bring him back. So, we got something maybe that we could work with, and going forward, or maybe somebody we can use this year, because these two guys they're veterans. They've been in the league. I think he's been in the league about 5 years. So he's probably gonna get the nod over a guy like Najee Marshall. Darius Stonewall, he's not able to come back because that will put us in the luxury tax if we brought him back. So it's another guy that can take a spot. So maybe we don't see him no more this year, and he takes that spot and kind of get some burn trash time, or who knows, maybe he can move up in the rotation, because outside of Kiara, NAW, you got Jackson Hayes. Billy ain't really getting a lot of minutes unless Adams or Hayes get hurt. You got some spots there, man. So Melli's gone. So James Johnson's probably gonna get that 4th spot. And if we go with 10 guys, then it's very likely that Wentz could be that 10 guy, man. And these are 2 Van Gundy guys. I was talking to Big Q about it, and he reminds me of you said he was garbage though. Stanley Johnson, another guy, a lot of athleticism, defensive capabilities, offensive side of the game need a lot of work. Wentz is pretty much a similar mold, man, almost a similar build and everything. So I'm sure Stan Van Gundy's excited right now that he's got 2 defensive guys for guys that he really wasn't trying to play at all. So
Yeah, James Johnson's contest in 17 minutes of action. His best season of play was actually maybe about several seasons ago, back in 2016 and 2017 with the Miami Heat. He averaged 13 points a game with 5 rebounds in that time span. He played in 76 games, started 5 of them, but 27 minutes of action. That's what he did. And just recently, up to 2 years ago in Minnesota, he averaged 12 points a contest in 14 games as well. So, like I said, what he brings is something that the Pelicans simply don't have right now. And that's a guy that is a big guy who fights for baskets. He can play in the 5. If they go small, he can be the small ball center. He fights for rebounds. You have to run plays for him. He dives on the floor. And he's an attitude guy. He brings the attitude. He brings intensity off the bench. Right. He's the guy that you would need off the bench that we were talking about. And another thing, he also completes.
He ain't afraid to fight. That's
Correct.
what I like about him.
Correct. It's footage
20 and 0 is a kickboxer.
Yeah, that's right.
So when Kiara get knocked down or they foul Zion hard, guess who's gonna be walking over there?
Yeah, he don't play that.
Would have been Steven Adams, but he seems like he's a little bit too much of a nice guy. I don't think he's scared of nobody. But we need somebody to ruffle some feathers, man. Because we don't want to get our feathers ruffled. So I think he's a guy that could do that, man. That's the most exciting part of this to me. He brings a an intensity to me, a little bit of a toughness, depending on how well he meshes with everybody and just takes a liking to him, man. I mean, you gonna get some passion from a guy like this, like similar like a Pat Beverly, like that energy, man. That little pesky, annoying, like, oh man, this guy, we gotta. You got a little bit of that, man. I think that's a great thing, bro.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's the thing that we were talking about. And most importantly, DC, what he does do is he gives the Pelicans a person that really that he gives the Pelicans somebody that really works at that final spot off the bench. When you talking about completing the bench, and you need that four that can that can hit that 3-pointer. Like I said, he's about 31% from shooting the three. But the reality is Nicolo Melli wasn't doing, so the Pelicans got rid of two guys they weren't going to get rid of anyway. And what they do get back for Johnson is a guy that really help you off the bench. He fits with what they're doing. He gives you the big guy that does it all, man. And that mean guy. DC mentioned that he's a kickboxer, 18-0. I want to know 20-0 as a kickboxer. He's a black belt. Right. His whole family's black belts. You think a guy like that gonna take some? You know what? Absolutely not. So we get him a 2nd-round pick, and the other guy that we got was Wesley Iwundu, who's 6'7". He was a 7th-round draft pick.
He a Jedi.
Yeah, you get him. He was a 2nd-round pick by the Orlando Magic back in what year was that? A couple of years ago. And
2017.
Yeah, 20. Yep. And he was a 2nd-round pick. Yeah, 2017, 33rd pick overall for the Magic. He moved around a little bit as well. 6'7", 6'6", about 195, 200 pounds around that way. They got him listed as a small forward. I seen footage of him playing as a 2. Not a lot to talk about this young man. You go and look at his scouting report coming out of Kansas State, and they talk about him. His pros is good scorer off the dribble, excel at scoring on the move. They consider him a playmaker, fairly good rebounder, good defensive player, solid athlete, does have long arms, and great size to play on the wing. Now, his cons is he needs to improve his shooting, unselfish to a fault, meaning too much passing, can be a bit turnover prone. We can work on that. Can play too wildly on offense at times, does not collect enough steals, and at times does commit bad penalties. But the reality is, the summary on him is he's an athletic swingman that excels at taking the ball to the hoop and garners scores. Plus, he's a good facilitator that plays like a seasoned point forward. And he also is an adequate defender. He will need to improve his jump shot.
Pesky defender, that's what they call him.
That's his game. His game is that he takes pride in the defensive aspect of his game. But it's shown that he can knock down shots at times when he stays focused. He's a highly energetic player that could potentially be a reliable two-way player in the NBA someday, as he says strong season this year could solidify a spot to be picked in upcoming draft. Now, that was the pre-draft NBA scouting report on Wesley Iwundu. Mm-hmm. So, and of course you look at his statistics, DC, for his career since he's been in the league for 2017. And it's not much to talk about because he hadn't had that much opportunity to kind of make an impression. Now, he did spend 3 years with Orlando, and then, of course, last year with Dallas. He's played in 205 games, started 49 of them, averaged 17 minutes of contest. Now, his career statistics is he's 4.5 points per contest for Iwundu, and he shoots about 80% from the charity stripe. He shoots 30% from downtown, and he's a 41.2% field goal shooter. So with that being said, a lot of that, but we'll see what Wesley Iwundu.
He's had stretches where he shot 42% from 3 last year. I was looking into I think from January 1st he went on a little run where he shot 42% from 3. So I mean, he got some upside, man. We don't have, they're not bums. So these are guys that can bring something to that bench. And for a while this season we had one of the worst benches in the league. And our young guys started getting it together, and now you add 2 guys like this that can give you some production, man. This really, to me, helps the Pelicans a lot going on a potential playoff push. I mean, I understand all the trades happened, and we all looking at everything happen. Aaron Gordon then went to Denver. Lonzo then went to the Clippers. You got Powell that went to the Blazers. We already had headaches with the Blazers, and you add him. But still, man, I think this team has a lot of growing to do. And this guy, Wes, can be one of those guys that come in and give guys headaches for us on the defensive end. So we need a guy like that. And I'm pretty sure Stan Van Gundy's been dying for a guy like that. And we potentially got two, man. So it's going to be real interesting to see, man. I'm kind of excited to see these guys get a chance to play. And also what we're going to do with Eric Bledsoe, too. That's what I was hoping we probably could have been able to move. I was hearing some stuff about the Knicks and attaching the first round pick to move him and all of that. But he's still here. Lonzo here too. But it'd be real interesting to see how these lineups are gonna go now with Melli out of that rotation, and Stan Van Gundy's been having a pretty set 9-man rotation. So Lonzo's still hurt. I don't know how long that's gonna go. He was in practice today and tried to give it a go. Stan Van Gundy said he pulled his own self out when they did defensive drills, which was a little more straining for him. So tomorrow he might not play again. But what's the time frame, Q, once we trade guys when they're available to come with the team and be able to play with all this COVID stuff? And
right. It's going to be I say it probably won't be for the Denver matchup, of course, tomorrow. It'll probably more than likely be the second.
No, I was thinking more of the Dallas match.
Yeah.
Dallas is Saturday.
Right. That should be about right. It take a little while for them to do everything, get everything into place, but it won't be instantaneous. Like they'll be ready for the upcoming Denver game. So, which is tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how it all shakes. But like I said, it's an attempt to fulfill the bench, and this is what they got. And of course, for people that say, well, Q, they ain't get value for JJ Redick. Listen to me. JJ Redick was headed for the buyout market. The Pelicans got something for him. They got a four who can play the 5 that can work off the bench. That's the position that you needed off the bench. You needed a big that can play the 4 or 5, and this does make the lineup look a little different if you think about it, because that doesn't push Jackson Hayes off his spot. This guy could play next to Jackson Hayes. He could play next to Jackson Hayes, Josh Hart, and it does make your bench rotation look a lot more complete, because that's the last thing you were missing was a guy with an attitude like this. And like I said, he ain't lighting the world on fire with shooting 30 to 31% from downtown, but neither was Nicolo Melli. So I mean, you wasn't gonna get much for JJ Redick. He was headed for a buyout, and Nicolo Melli was stinking up the place. So you got rid of both of those guys. And you got something, including a second-round pick and a prospect in Wesley Iwundu, which will be interesting to see what they do with him as well. Athletic wing like that can do some stuff, high energetic. His defense is a staple point. We'll see how that all shakes. But